What's going on, everyone? Welcome to a Movie Emporium Netflix original movie review of The Pale Blue Eye, the newest film from Scott Cooper. Okay, so this movie, The Pale Blue Eye, is Scott Cooper's newest film. It's based off a book from Louis Bayard. It once again reunites Cooper with Christian Bale, who plays a detective or investigator of serial murders. I'll guess this lander. There are some cadets who are murdered, and in the process of everything, he comes across this cadet who is played by Henry Melling, who plays Edgar Allan Poe. So with that said, these two individuals basically try to uncover who killed these cadets and start to uncover a larger mystery and a larger plot that involves some individuals possibly in this military academy in the United States in the 1800s. And it's a gothic horror film / gothic drama about who committed those murders. And that's the basic plot of this movie. It has people like Gillian in it, Toby Jones. It has, Timothy Spall, Lucy Boynton. It has a lot of, well-to-do actors in this and actresses. Charlotte Gainsborough's in this movie. And it's a movie that when it comes to Scott Cooper, it's very difficult to love his movies because they're very slow burn movies. They're very specific, I guess you could say. They're shot really well. His cinematography they're beautiful to watch. They're very kind of dour looking, very blues and grays and stuff like that. His music in the movie good. He's a great director. It's just his movies are very difficult to watch sometimes because they're very not cheery films, to be fairly honest, and that's no different here. It's a very dour film about murders and Edgar Allan Poe and a detective trying to deal with some trauma in his past, as well as dealing with the trying to find out who killed these cadets. And I just kind of went into this film I didn't know how I was gonna feel about it. It hasn't gotten great reviews. A lot of people were very mixed on this movie. His last movie, Antlers, was it was an interesting film, but once again was a very dour, dark film. So with this being a Netflix film, I kind of expected this film not to be very great. And on top of that, this will be a spoiler review after I get done with my non-spoiler sense. So just be aware of that. I should have warned you in the beginning, but it is a spoiler review after I get done with my non-spoiler talk of this movie. So with that said, my honest opinion, my honest review of this movie, I just wasn't a fan, to be fairly honest. It's kind of how I've come to determine Scott Cooper. I think his movies are so slow burn sometimes that they're a little too difficult to follow. They're a little too difficult to enjoy in a lot of respects. And it's really no different here. I don't take away from what Scott Cooper is capable of doing. I just feel after something like Crazy Heart and even Antlers, this feels like the same tread of a film that he's normally known for doing, and I just don't ever get on board with that. It's not a terrible film. It's not going to go my top worst of 2023 or anything like that, but it just is another film that I'm going to forget about in 6 months or a month or whatever. It's just that unfortunate nature. And even with the great cast that is involved with this movie, I didn't feel anything for it. I don't feel anything for these characters. Henry Melling, who has become quite a decent actor in his own right after doing all the Harry Potter films and now doing all these Netflix films, he's good. He looks like Edgar Allan Poe, but he's lost in this mystery that once it's fully explained just feels very trite and very kind of okay, sure. And I guess maybe that's how the book plays out, but I was never really on board with that. And I don't know. It never ends up being my cup of tea. And it's, some people will enjoy this film. That's perfectly all right. And I found the world more interesting than the story. And when you see like characters being played by Toby Jones and people like Timothy Spall, who are famous British actors, and you got all these great actors, and they just can't mount to much. And you have a director who just once again seems like incapable of heart. I don't know. I just found this movie very tedious and boring, and was starting to fall asleep a little bit, and that's not a very good sign. It just, once again, it's very shot very well. That's my overall feeling of this movie. I felt it had a lot of potential and a lot of, core ideas that were there and representative. I never felt on board with this film at all. It's unfortunate. And that's kind of where I'm going to leave my non-spoiler review, because I felt this ending to this movie, and we'll talk about it. It just completely I don't understand the logic of it, the reason of it, and it's bad. So With that said, that's kind of where I'm going to leave my non-spoiler review for this movie. It just wasn't my cup of tea. It's unfortunate, but it is the way it is. So, with that said, I won't be too long on a spoiler review, but I have to talk about this. This movie is leading up to Who Killed the Cadets. It's leading up to, because Edgar Allan Poe in this movie and just in general was a very interesting poet. From what I learned from about his life, he was never really destined to be in the military. He came from a really rough background, but was never destined to be in the military. But was a cadet at West Point or wherever the army is, or whatever he was doing. But this movie, unfortunately, plays out to be kind of trying to throw a curveball at you, trying to throw that twist at you, which never fully succeeds. We find out that the character Leia, played by Lucy Boynton, and this character Artemis are basically practicing witchcraft, and the Gillian Anderson character is, of course, her mother. She's having seizures. They are trying to con this character played by Henry Melling of Edgar Allan Poe into basically giving her life through this witchcraft stuff, and they end up trying to bleed and trying to kill and trying to take out the heart. They're taking out the heart of this cadet of Henry Melling's character, and of course the character that Christian Bale plays, who is somebody who has a wife who's played by Charlotte Gainsborough, who's lost a daughter who committed suicide. We basically find out that after Lucy Boynton's character and his Artemis character are killed, and then of course Edgar Allan Poe is saved, Edgar Allan Poe discovers that Augustus, the Christian Bale character, actually killed the cadets as a revenge plot to take back the revenge of course, his daughter, who was raped and basically she committed suicide. And I don't have a problem with that concept and idea and him going after revenge, but I have a problem with the way the movie's set up. It's played off so dramatically like he's trying to find out who... This story's been done before. I can't remember exactly what movie it is, but it has been done before, where the twist is this character is trying to solve the murder of the one he committed. And as much as I appreciate those twists, they never fully are 100% thought through to perfection. And it just... I'm sitting here watching this movie, and I'm like, it's an interesting movie. It's a slow burn movie. It's a very Scott Cooper movie. But I kept going. There has to be some logic or reason to who killed these people. Like, is it Artemis? Is it Leia? Is it Edgar Allan Poe? I mean, it's got to be somebody that, at least logical reasoning, because if you look at something like The General's Daughter, or A Few Good Men, the murderer is somebody that is close. When it's revealed that it's actually Christian Bale's character, it completely deflates the whole story, and it doesn't make any sense. The fact that he's going after himself to kind of throw off the whole thing because his daughter was killed and stuff like that it would make more sense if we knew that these cadets did it. He's trying to go after him. We knew that, but they're trying to hide it under this veil of we're going to throw a twist into it. And I know this is based off a book, and it just doesn't feel like I even like the book because I don't like this style of twist. I don't think it works. I think it's very tedious and very kind of not a proponent of a good storytelling aspect. And that's just how I felt here. It just, maybe it's also, I heard a lot of things about the book being a little more in your face, a little more piercing when it comes to the storytelling, and I don't feel like that maybe works here. Maybe that's what the problem is maybe the book is good and the twist works, but it doesn't here at all. And I really have a problem with it. I really do. As somebody who goes in and watches a lot of movies and has watched a lot of great twists in movies, when one doesn't work and one doesn't work very well, it really shows. And when you get to the very end and Edgar Allan Poe is confronted Augustus Lander, and he burns the letter because he knows that as much as he should turn in Augustus, that he's not going to. I think at that point I just didn't care anymore. I really did. And it's unfortunate. It is a problem, and it is the nature of sometimes the story just isn't well put together, isn't well written, isn't well directed, and I felt that here. So it's unfortunate. It takes away from what could have been a really interesting story, and I think in the end having that twist just kind of ruins this movie. It really does. It makes it go from an interesting kind of okay, cool, whatever, slow burn type of story to mean something a little silly. So there you go. That's kind of the spoilerish moments when you find out that Augustus Lander is actually investigating himself. It's like now you see me with Mark Ruffalo revealing that he was like going after himself. It's preposterous, but at least I can kind of get it with that movie because that movie's not very good, but I kind of enjoy it. But when you're going something a little more serious and dramatic like this movie does, and you kind of have that same plot, yeah, it just doesn't work for me. So anyways, with that said, that's where I'm going to leave it. That is the spoiler sense of this movie, which is, of course, The Pale Blue Eye. I want more of Scott Cooper. I think he was proving somewhat interesting with Antlers. I think Crazy Heart is a really good movie, but maybe he's just my cup of tea. I don't know. So with that said, that'll do it. Thank you so much for watching. In the comments below, what did you think of the plot twist? What did you think of the movie overall? This is releasing the day of this movie releases, just so people can watch it before they watch the spoiler sense and stuff like that. Anyways, with that said, thank you so much for watching. If you like what you see in this video, awesome. Hit the subscribe button to join Movie Emporium. Hit that notification bell at top to find what's coming next. If you like the videos, awesome. Hit that like button. And as always, we'll see you guys on hopefully a next better video. Peace out.